2024, 6 meters beneath the Iraqi desert, a routine scan revealed something that cannot exist. It wasn't gold. It wasn't a lost king. It was a machine. You are looking at the ancient city of Ur in modern-day Iraq. For over 4,000 years, these ruins have guarded the secrets of the Sumerians, the civilization that gave us writing, the wheel, and the first laws. But they did not give us this. They couldn't have. An Iraqi European team was conducting a standard survey of a minor, unlooted tomb. The first object they pulled from the sand was a single perfect gear. Geochemical analysis dated the surrounding soil to 2100 BCE. The gear itself was made of chromium steel, an alloy not officially patented until the year 1912. Think about that for a moment. That's like finding a microchip inside a dinosaur fossil. The official report from the expedition leaders mentions none of this. It speaks of minor metallic artifacts, likely ceremonial. But we have the original field notes, leaked by a source on the team just weeks ago. They described not a few artifacts, but a complex mechanical assembly. The government in Baghdad immediately classified the entire site. The official story? A risk of structural collapse. The truth is far more unsettling. Here are the ground-penetrating radar scans that were never meant to be seen. They show a 3-meter-tall humanoid figure, buried in a seated position as if on a throne. It is composed of an estimated 1,200 interlocking, non-ferrous components. This isn't a statue. This isn't art. It is a machine, built before the Iron Age had even begun. For weeks, the team documented it in absolute secrecy. The pressure from their superiors was immense. Keep it quiet. Do not touch it. But why? Why hide the single greatest archaeological find in human history? What were they so afraid of? Beside the machine, they found a collection of perfectly preserved clay tablets. The cuneiform script was an obscure, early dialect of Sumerian, baffling the team's top linguists. And here is where the story turns. On May 1st, a junior archaeologist, attempting to clear dust, accidentally brushed against a panel on the machine's chest. According to the leaked security logs, a low-frequency hum emanated from the object for exactly 3.3 seconds. All electronic equipment within a 50-meter radius instantly failed. At that exact moment, the cuneiform tablets, untouched for 4 millennia, began to emit a soft, blue light. The team's lead linguist managed to translate the first illuminated line. It wasn't a prayer. It wasn't a tribute. It was a warning. Illuminated in blue light, shook the archaeological team to its core. The translation of the first line was chilling. Do not awaken the sleeper. Think about what that means. A machine, dormant for millennia, suddenly reactivates, and the ancient texts plead for its continued slumber. The official reports, of course, make no mention of glowing tablets or electronic failures. But the leaked field notes, confirmed by multiple sources, detail the panic that erupted. You can feel the fear radiating from those pages. The team leader, Dr. Elara Vance, immediately ordered the site sealed tighter than ever before. No one was to touch the machine again. But the tablets had already begun their silent transmission. Each day, a new line of cuneiform would glow. It wasn't random. It was a narrative unfolding, revealing secrets of a civilization far beyond our understanding. The Sumerians, around 2100 BCE, possessed knowledge that should have been impossible. We teach that the Sumerians were pioneers of agriculture, urban planning, and early astronomy. They mapped the stars with remarkable accuracy. But these tablets describe celestial mechanics with a precision that hints at advanced instrumentation. For example, they detail the orbital eccentricities of Jupiter with an error margin of less than 0.05%. This level of accuracy wasn't achieved in Western astronomy until Johannes Kepler in the 17th century. How did they achieve this? What instruments did they use, hidden from history? The tablets also speak of a cataclysm, a global event that reshaped their world. It describes water rising from the deep, swallowing mountains. This sounds remarkably like the flood narratives found in cultures across the globe. But here, the flood is tied directly to the sleeper. It claims the machine was built to prevent such a disaster, or perhaps to survive it. And here's where it gets truly unsettling. The texts describe the machine not as a tool, but as a guardian, a sentient entity. It speaks of its own consciousness, its purpose, its long vigil. This isn't just a complex device, it's something more. What if ancient myths of gods walking among men weren't myths at all? What if they were history? The Sumerian king list, an ancient manuscript, names kings who ruled for tens of thousands of years. Historians dismiss these as mythological exaggerations. But what if these kings were not human? What if they were something like the sleeper? Consider Enmebaragesi of Kish, a historical king from around 2700 BCE. His name appears on the king list, but the tablets imply his reign was merely a brief interlude in a much longer, non-human lineage. The tablets describe a period of immense technological advancement, followed by a sudden, catastrophic collapse. A great silence fell across the land. The guardian, the sleeper, was then placed in its tomb to await a specific time, a specific awakening. And here's the part nobody talks about. The tablets contain precise astronomical alignments. They depict the precession of the equinoxes, a phenomenon that takes approximately 25,920 years to complete one full cycle. The texts use this cycle to mark the sleeper's awakening. This implies an understanding of cosmic time on a scale we rarely associate with early civilizations. You have to wonder, who taught them this? These ancient people, living in mud-brick cities, knew things that defy our historical timeline. They knew of chromium steel. They knew of complex orbital mechanics. And they knew of a mechanical god buried beneath their earth. The warning is clear. When the great eye aligns with the serpent, the sleeper will stir. The great eye is identified as a specific star cluster, and the serpent a constellation. Modern astronomers have identified this alignment. It is happening now. The precise date of the full alignment? According to the tablets, it is May 12, 2024, just days after the machine emitted its low-frequency hum. What happens when the sleeper fully awakens? And what exactly is it guarding against? And what exactly is it guarding against? The team at was about to find out. Just 2 days after the machine's hum, on May 12, 2024, the full astronomical alignment described in the tablets was complete. The great eye aligned with the serpent. No one knew what to expect. You can only imagine the tension at the site. Every shadow seemed to hold a secret. Dr. Vance had reinforced security, establishing a 500-meter exclusion zone around the excavation. But what good are armed guards against an ancient mechanical entity? The tablets continued their silent blue glow, revealing more lines each hour. They spoke of the sleeper's core purpose, not to prevent the cataclysm, but to manage it. A chilling distinction. They detailed a process called hydro-recalibration. This involved manipulating vast subterranean water reservoirs. The Sumerians, it seems, understood geology on a scale we are only now beginning to grasp. Think about what that means for our understanding of ancient engineering. We imagine simple irrigation canals. They were thinking on a planetary scale. This information was, of course, kept from the public. The official narrative remained archaeological fragility. But behind closed doors, a different kind of panic was unfolding. The leaked security logs from May 12th describe a seismic event, not a natural earthquake. It originated directly beneath the sleeper, a low, resonant vibration. It lasted for precisely 17 minutes and 42 seconds. All electronic equipment within 2 kilometers failed. Again. This wasn't a malfunction. This was a deliberate act. The tablets, now glowing with impulsing blue, revealed the final lines. They were not a warning this time. They were instructions. Instructions for the sleeper itself. They described its awakening sequence. Its primary objective: balance the deep waters, prevent the great inundation. The implications are staggering. We are taught that ancient civilizations were at the mercy of nature. But what if one civilization built a mechanism to control it? Dr. Vance, a brilliant but cautious archaeologist, was faced with an impossible choice. Should she follow the instructions from a 4,000-year-old text or trust modern science? The problem was, modern science offered no explanation for a chromium steel machine from 2100 BCE. The tablets explicitly stated that failure to follow the instructions would result in uncontrolled egress of subterranean oceans. In simpler terms, a global flood. The team's geologists, initially dismissive, began to review the data. They found anomalies. Subterranean water pressure readings across the Middle East had indeed spiked. Suddenly, the ancient flood myths didn't seem so mythological. This wasn't some localized event. This was a system designed to avert a planetary disaster. And here's where it gets interesting. The instructions required a human interface, a specific sequence of touches on the sleeper's metallic skin, a password essentially. The tablets provided the exact sequence, and a single, terrifying caveat. The activation is irreversible. One touch, one decision, to either trust the wisdom of a long-dead civilization and a machine that defies all logic, or risk global catastrophe. What do you think happened? Dr. Vance made her choice. On May 13th, under pressure from Baghdad, she authorized the activation. The world's first known interaction with an active, ancient mechanical god. You can feel the weight of that moment, the fear, the hope, the profound uncertainty. The lead engineer, Dr. Karim Abbas, carefully followed the sequence. His hands trembled as he touched the cold metallic surface. The first touch. Nothing. The second. A low hum, deeper than before. The third. A segment of the machine's chest plate retracted, revealing a cavity. Inside, a pulsating blue light. The tablets, now dark, had delivered their message. And here's the part nobody talks about. The cavity contained a single, perfectly spherical object, about the size of a human head. It was made of the same chromium steel as the gear, and it was rotating. The entire site began to vibrate. Not a seismic event this time. It felt internal, as if the Earth itself was adjusting. The rotating sphere emitted a low, continuous tone, a sound that some described as a song and others as a lament. It was a sound no human had ever heard before, or so they thought. The sphere continued to rotate, its light intensified, and then the vibration stopped. The hum ceased. Silence. A profound silence. For a full minute, nothing happened. The team held its breath. Then, a single, undeniable fact emerged. Global seismic monitoring stations reported a sudden, dramatic drop in subterranean water pressure across every continent. A system of immense power had just performed its task. It had balanced the deep waters. It had prevented the great inundation. The sleeper had awakened. It had acted. And now it was silent again. But the sphere continued to rotate, and no one knew what it would do next. and no one knew what it would do next. You can feel the quiet apprehension that settled over the excavation site. Dr. Vance, her face etched with exhaustion, watched the metallic orb. It pulsed with a soft internal light. This wasn't merely a machine. It felt like a living heart, beating with an ancient rhythm. The lead engineer, Dr. Karim Abbas, stood beside her. He had activated the sleeper. His hands still bore the metallic scent. He described the sound the sphere made as a song, a melody without notes, a vibration that resonated deep within his bones. This was the sound no human had heard before, or so they thought. But what if it was not new? What if it was an echo? The tablets, now dark, had spoken of celestial guardians, not as static statues, but as active participants in the Earth's history. And here's the part nobody talks about. The Sumerians had a word for this rotating sphere. They called it Gish-Nu. It translates to heart of the sky. This specific term appears in texts dating back to 2500 BCE. They described it not as an object, but as a presence, a silent observer. The official reports from Baghdad, of course, presented a sanitized version. Successful geological stabilization efforts. No mention of ancient machines. No mention of rotating spheres. But the leaked field notes, confirmed by multiple sources, tell a different story. They speak of a profound shift in the team's understanding of their own history. You see, the Sumerian king list, which we discussed earlier, names kings who ruled for impossibly long periods. Enmebaragesi of Kish, for example, reigned for 900 years. Historians dismiss these as mythological exaggerations. But what if these kings were not human? What if they were something like the sleeper? What if they were the celestial guardians? Think about what that means for our understanding of civilization itself. We are taught that humanity progressed, step by arduous step, from simple tools to complex societies. But what if the early steps were guided? What if the Sumerians, with their advanced knowledge of astronomy and metallurgy, weren't entirely self-taught? The rotating sphere, the heart of the sky, continued its silent revolution. It emitted no further instructions, no more warnings, just that continuous low tone, a sound that, according to Dr. Abbas, was both comforting and unsettling. It was a sound that made him feel both incredibly small and deeply connected to something vast. This object, buried for millennia, had performed its task. It had prevented a global flood. A system of immense power had acted. But for whom? And why did it then fall silent? This isn't just about ancient technology. This is about identity, about what it means to be human, to be a civilization. What if our myths aren't just stories? What if they are distorted memories, echoes of a time when celestial guardians walked among us? The Sumerian texts speak of the Anunnaki, beings who came down from the heavens. They were described as gods, bestowing knowledge upon humanity. Is it possible that the sleeper, this chromium steel machine, was one of them, a mechanical god? The team at once focused on uncovering relics, now found themselves facing an existential question. Who were we before we were us? What knowledge have we forgotten? The sphere rotated. Its light, a faint blue, seemed to watch them all. It was a silent testament to a history far more complex than any textbook would dare to suggest. It was a history written in metal and ancient stone, and it was waiting for us to remember. The sphere continued its deliberate rotation. Dr. Vance looked at Dr. Abbas. Neither spoke. The desert wind carried grains of sand across the ancient site, dust settling on secrets. And you have to wonder, what else lies buried beneath the sand? What other guardians await their awakening? What other songs are waiting to be heard? are waiting to be heard. Perhaps the most important message was not about the past at all, but about the future. Your future. The international team eventually left Ur. The site was sealed under a new treaty, its designation officially listed as at risk, a convenient label that hides the truth. It is now a fortress, guarding a secret. Dr. Vance and Dr. Abbas returned to their quiet lives, but they carried something with them. A final piece of the puzzle that was never leaked, until now. Weeks after the activation, long after the world's seismologists had stopped scratching their heads, the rotating sphere projected one last message. It was not in cuneiform. It was not a language from the ancient world. You are looking at a string of ones and zeros. Yes, binary code. The foundational language of our own digital age, supposedly not formalized for another 3,800 years by Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. The official internal analysis from Baghdad logged the event as uncorrelated signal interference. But this was no accident. Think about what this means. A 4,000-year-old intelligence communicating in the native tongue of the 21st century. It's the ultimate temporal handshake. The binary sequence was remarkably short. Once translated, it did not offer a new warning. It did not give technical instructions. It asked a question. 3 simple words. What will you build? Read that sentence again. What will you build? This changes everything you thought you knew. The sleeper was not a god demanding worship. It was not a king demanding obedience. It was a test, a legacy. The Sumerians were given knowledge. They built cities, they mapped the stars, and they preserved the guardian for the next cycle. They built what they could. They passed the torch. Now, the torch is in your hands. The discovery at Ur was never about a machine. It was about finding a mirror. For 4 millennia, it sat beneath the sand, a silent testament to a forgotten potential. Not its potential, ours. The stories of celestial guardians, the Anunnaki. Maybe they weren't gods who ruled over us. Maybe they were ancestors who believed in us. They left behind a failsafe for the planet, a mechanism to correct a catastrophic imbalance. But they also left a question, a challenge aimed directly at our civilization right now. The machine was built to save a world from a flood, a problem of physics, of geology. It cannot save us from ourselves. Deep beneath the Iraqi desert, the sphere continues to rotate, a silent heart, waiting to see our answer.